Welcome to the Passive Income Machine podcast, where we show you how to break free from the grind and achieve real financial freedom in 10 years or less. My name is Ryan D. Lee, and I've helped thousands turn income into cash flow, trade fake money for real assets, and take back control over their time, their wealth, and ultimately their life. Each week, you'll get strategy, tools, and mindset to build your own passive income machine. So my friends, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. All right, my friends. Welcome to the Passive Income Machine. You are on the microphone today with me, Ryan D. Lee, and my man, the myth, the arbitrator of passive income, Mr. Scott Saunders. Scott, you want to say what's up to everybody today?
Ryan, super excited to be here with you. We got a fun topic today that I think when people grasp it, it can really make a difference. We're going to unpack some real kind of secrets that make a difference in the passive income machine. Can't wait to dive into it with you.
I'll tell you what, the passive income machine is, I don't know, it's the most powerful strategy out there for finance. But one of the reasons it's so practical in the world that we live in today, the world today is filled with misconceptions, half-truths about money. And most people are so stuck financially because they believe the false side of what money is today. Today, in fact, it's been this way for several decades now. Today, our money is debt, which quite literally means, if you read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Savers or Losers, every single day, your dollars are getting less valuable. The purchasing power are going down. And the only way to combat this idea, this concept, this philosophy, I guess it's not even a philosophy, this reality that inflation is destroying our money, is understanding the concept of leverage. And one of the most powerful concepts inside of leverage is this idea of other people's money. Now, Scott, I'll be honest, when I first got into the world of real estate, people talked all about other people's money, OPM they called it. And man, I was so scared about that because the last thing I wanted to do is go grovel to my friends and family and say, hey, can you lend me some money? That's not what I wanted to do. And that's what I thought OPM was in the beginning. And that false idea, that misconception, it actually prevented me from starting my game plan sooner because I was trying to do all the work, save all the resources so I had enough to get going. So Scott, what is OPM?
So OPM stands for other people's money, and it's really different resources that are available to us as investors from multiple different sources that are out there. We can take advantage of these resources, use those resources, that capital, that money from, and I've identified 4 different of these resources that we can talk about today. It'll allow us to purchase an asset. So we're taking dollars today, and we've got 4 different ways to access this capital to buy an asset. That asset now grows and begins to build our wealth in the background. And so to me, it's exciting that we can harness 4 different sources of capital that allow us to execute and take down assets. To tell you kind of the power of this, think about it. If I have to go buy anything today with all of my own capital, whether it's a stock, whether it's a gold coin, whether it's Bitcoin, I have to take and save all my money and then go out and purchase that asset, right? All of my own resources. That's really limiting when now we've got OPM, other capital, other sources of money to help us buy assets. So it's a big change. How do you get ahead if we have to save everything and basically purchase an asset today and then wait and slowly let that thing do whatever it's going to do? Appreciate. It's very hard to overcome things like inflation and all of the economic forces. And I say very hard, it's almost impossible to do that without having the leverage.
Because by the time you save enough money to buy your first asset, the asset costs more money, which means you have to continue to save, which by default is devaluing the savings that you have. It's just this self-perpetuating cycle. So Scott, if you're telling me there's four sources of OPM, are you going to give me a framework to go ask for a loan from my mom? I know my mom's ready to give me a loan if I just have the right framework. What are these 4 resources? Let's dive into it.
Let's unpack them. So number 1, and we can kind of expand upon it. First one, if you structure it properly and you use what we teach in the passive income machine, we're going to save some capital in a life insurance policy, a very unique policy. So step number 1 would be we've got in funds from an insurance company that we can borrow against. So the money doesn't actually leave, right? We're building up something called cash value in a life insurance policy. we borrow against that cash value. So the insurance company is going to literally give us some money for the down payment if we structure things the right way. And maybe you want to expand upon what this tool and this strategy is, Ryan.
Yeah, man, we call it the vault, right? And the vault does sit at the foundation of the passive income machine for so many different reasons. But to keep our focus narrow today on OPM, I think really the core concept is you need a place to store your capital, right? You need a place to store your capital. It's either a bank, it's cash in your backyard, I guess not in your backyard, but in your safe at home, it's a 401k, an IRA, whatever it is. But if we're talking about OPM, where do we store our capital that we can access OPM? And you're telling me, Scott, that if I put money into a property structured, maximum funded, cash value focused whole life insurance policy, that was a mouthful. But if I put my money in one of those accounts, I now have access to the life insurance company's money. And here's something really unique that most people don't know. Life insurance companies, unlike banks, have to have all of the cash value for every policyholder in a very liquid state. It's mandated and defaulted by law. Banks get to do fractional reserve lending, not insurance companies. So what that means is insurance companies have not just a couple thousand, but billions of dollars in short-term liquid funds that they're earning a rate of return on, and all they allow me to do is whatever cash value I've built inside of my policy. If I put money in up front and I've got $50,000 of cash value, or if I've been putting money in for years and I've got $1 million in cash value, whatever my cash value is, that becomes my open line of credit. Now, Scott, we've done this. You've seen this happen by multiple people in our community. When I go to the insurance company, unlike a bank, and I say, hey, insurance company, give me access to this line of credit, what do I have to do? Do I have to fill out paperwork? Do I have to get approved? Do they check on my debt to income ratio? What happens in this process?
Here's the beauty of it. Because you've already built up that cash value, you approach the insurance company and say, hey, I want to go ahead and take a loan out for X amount. If there's $50,000, I want to pull out $30,000. Within a matter of days, they give you that money because you've already built up the cash value. So there's no screening, there are no long applications, there's no process of checking anything. It's your money that you've already built up in there, and they're going to give you a loan against it. It is probably the easiest capital to access out there because it's so simple. Within a week, you get it. A few days, you request it, the wire transfer it over, and now you're accessing the capital that you build up. I can't think of a system that's easier, and because we're also used to going to banks and showing them balance sheets and tax returns and all of the hoops we have to jump through to get capital, this is almost the easiest way to access liquidity through that line of credit.
Yeah, and the powerful part about this OPM idea is they're not taking the money out of your policy. Your money inside of your policy, the full cash value amount, that continues to compound and grow. Now, your ability to access future funds is diminished until you pay that loan back. So back to your example, Scott, if I have $50,000 and I take a loan for $30,000, I can now borrow up to $20,000 more. But the insurance company is never going to ask me, what am I borrowing it for? When am I paying it back? How am I paying it back? I can do that all up to my own desires and schedule, which gives me a ton of flexibility. But then the second I make a loan payment back, I can access the capital right back again. The easiest way that I like to think about it is if you live in a home, and let's say your home, your primary residence, is worth $500,000, but you owe the bank $200,000 in a mortgage. You could easily go to the bank and access your home's value without having to move out of the home via a line of credit. That's exactly how the life insurance company allows you to use your policy. Your cash value is the equity inside of your policy, and your death benefit is the value of your policy. So they use your life insurance policy as collateral. They allow you to borrow up to the equity, your cash value, and then bada bing, bada boom, you've just turned $1 into $2. You've put $1 into your policy, right? It's compounding and growing, it's tax-free, but then you can leverage OPM, the insurance company's money, to go out and accomplish short-term goals. So that's step one. That sits at the foundation. So we've now just turned $1 into $2 with OPM. What are the others, Scott?
All right, let's go to the second one, because the second one a lot of people know about, but it is powerful. We're using the bank's money now to take out a loan. So simple numbers. I want to buy an asset worth $200,000, a single family rental. I'm going to put down a 20% down payment on that property, right? So I'm going to put down $40,000. I can now borrow from the bank up to 80% of the value. So I'm using the bank's money today to buy a fixed asset. I only put in 20% of the capital that I borrowed from that life insurance policy, right? That's where I got the capital, was borrowing that, so I get leverage. Now I get the leverage from the bank to buy a much bigger asset than I could buy with just my own dollars. So this one is really a big variable, is using the bank's money to buy an asset at today's price. I can buy a lot more using that money than I could buy with just my own resources. So this really amplifies our returns by using the bank's money. You want to expand upon that a little bit, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, this one blew my mind. I mean, it blew my mind once I finally understood how powerful this is. Because let's look at it from two different ways, right? We put the 20% down payment to buy the house. That actually came from the insurance company. Then we're borrowing 80% of the purchase price of the house from the bank. We are using OPM to buy an entire asset, a single family home in this example, the bank's money and the insurance company's money. All the while, our dollars are still growing and compounding inside of the vault. I mean, just imagine that for just a moment. I mean, if we really want to put some numbers to it, you're turning one invested dollar into 5 working dollars. Because your $1 inside of your policy, we call it the vault, it's now doing 2 jobs, compounding, and then you've leveraged it out. So $1 is turned into 2. Now when we take that second dollar to the bank brings 4 more dollars to the equation. We put $1 in and we have 5 working dollars at the end of this OPM leverage cycle. Now, if you don't understand this again, I'm going to go back to how we started this podcast. The only way to win in the game of money today in a debt-driven economy is with leverage. So, Scott, when we take out a 30-year fixed mortgage, what's actually happening to the value, if we want to call it that, of the mortgage? And then the flip side, what's happening to the value of the asset that we used it to buy? Hey, quick time out from the show. I just had to pop in and say, if this content is resonating with you, the How to Retire in 10 Years Summit is going to blow your mind. Every strategy you hear us talk about starts there. This is the ultimate event for creating real financial freedom in 2025. We've got an early registration bonus that you're not going to want to miss. Spots are filling fast, so check out that link in the description or just head over to retirein10years.com and get registered now. Let's make this your year. Now, back to the show.
Well, we get 2 benefits from it. When we take out a mortgage, you start paying interest with it. So you've got a payment. Some goes to what's called interest, a big chunk up front. And then you have another smaller chunk that goes to what's called principal reduction. So you're paying down that mortgage. So in the first year, a lot's interest, but a little bit, maybe $1,000, $2,000 worth, is a principal reduction. Here's where the magic happens, is you're going to get this wonderful gap. Every year that the mortgage principal is being paid down, the balance gets less. So I'm building up equity. At the same time, I've got this asset, let's just say a $200,000 house, that now is getting all of the economic forces of inflation increasing that. So let's just say it's got 5 or 10% appreciation, something like that. But it's on the purchase price, that $200,000. So that asset's going up in value a lot. And at the same time, I'm paying down my mortgage. So I'm getting this spread of equity that's building up where I'm actually using the bank's money on the asset and I'm paying down, or we'll get into the details of that because I'm not even paying down the mortgage, but we'll talk about that in the next part here. That mortgage is getting paid down. So my principal balance gets less and less, and over time I get this gap where the asset goes up and then my actual payment or the amount that I owe on the mortgage goes down. And that gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger over time. So much that when you get 10 years down the road, it's a huge gap. Year 1, it's a little itty bit. Year 2, it's better. Year 3. But that compounding effect, because you're getting inflation working on the overall value of the asset, that's really where now we're harnessing economic forces to begin to work for us. That's a big difference there.
It's so powerful, Scott. I mean, I think a lot of people want to look at the banking industry and say it's bad. And I'm not going to make a moral judgment on what the banking industry is, what it's not. I'm going to look at it for what it objectively is today and say, look, the banks exist for one reason. The entire business model of a bank is to lend money. And if the entire business model of a bank is to lend money, how do I put myself in the front of the line to get as much of that printed money as possible? It's getting printed. Somebody's getting access to it. Why not me? Right? And I think this was the epiphany that I had all those years ago about OPM, is if I wait for me to have enough resources, I'll never have enough. But if I look at this equation a little bit differently and say we live in a world where money is being printed overnight, if I can go get some of the banks, legitimately fake money, they're just basically printing it out of thin air. And I know people don't fully understand that, but that'll be a topic for another day. They're printing it out of thin air. I'm going to take that printed money and just convert it into a real asset, a single family home made of sticks and bricks that I can rent out to a wonderful little family. So now, Scott, we've accessed two forms of OPM, right? We've got the insurance company's money working for us. We've got the bank's money working for us. What's next?
All right, let's get to the third one. The third one is you've got a family in there. You've got a tenant in your asset, and they're going to be paying rent. The way we structure our investments is we want to have a little bit of positive cash flow coming. So that person who's paying rent is really covering the cost of the mortgage, so they're paying the interest. They're doing the principal reduction. They're actually essentially paying the property taxes and the insurance and the maintenance costs. So we have the third source is we've got the tenant's money working for us. So it's a win-win situation. They get a really nice asset where they're paying fair market rent, but because we structured things up front, we've got the benefit of the tenant's money. Essentially, the tenant's paying our mortgage cost and our carrying cost and giving us a little bit of cash flow every month. That is a big one because we took on the risk. We signed the papers, but at the end of the day, when you actually kind of go down what's happening, we buy an asset, a tenant lives in the asset. The tenant's the one that's actually giving us the monthly rental income to service that mortgage and to pay all those costs. Wow. Where
That's
else can
crazy.
you get an investment that does that, right?
Now, I want to point something out because in the world that we live in today, I think people they kind of gloss over how an economy is actually a moral interaction between honest people, right? That's really what it is. Because at the end of the day, I think some people would look at that and say, Scott, come on, man, you're charging that family to live in your house. They're making you wealthy. But look at this. The reality of exchange in general is dollars follow value, and exchange actually creates wealth. And what that means is when I can look at the world as a series of problems and not just say someone else has to solve those problems, but how can I look at those problems and become the solution? I can see problems as an opportunity. Now, let's take the house out of it for just a minute so emotions can lower for people that are listening to this. If you and I came across each other in a desert and you had a cooler full of, bottled water and I had a wallet full of $100 bills, if we really think dollars follow value and exchange creates wealth, right? If we're crossing paths in the desert and you've got all this water and I've got all the money, I'm going to freely exchange with you the money that I have because I value your water more than I value the paper in my wallet, right? And at the end of that exchange, as long as I didn't manipulate you or you didn't manipulate me, there was no coercion, there was no extortion, anything like that. If we freely exchanged, we both walk away from each other. And although we're not going to use these words, we're kind of like, sucker. That guy's a sucker, man. He sold me a bottle of water in the middle of a desert for $100. And you're going to be like, man, that dude's a sucker. He just paid $100 for a bottle of water and I got 20 more in this cooler, right? But we both walk away wealthier. So bringing this back to real estate, right? Everybody needs a place to live. And so if the tenant is paying rent, the rent is a symbol that they value your place to live, the home that you've provided as a shelter for them, more than they value the money in their bank account. They're willing to exchange that for you and with you. And you're willing to take on the risk to go produce an asset and put it in a neighborhood where tenants want to come live in it. And when we both walk away in that equation, we both get exactly what we want. I get the profit, I get my tenant paying down the mortgage, and they get a place to live. We're both wealthier because of the transaction. I think when you can fully understand how an economy works together without coercion or manipulation, and this is what makes it so hard in our economy today. There's a ton of coercion, there's a ton of manipulation, there's a ton of falsity, and so people have a misperception around money and exchange. But if we just break it down to its core, right? Its core is exchange. That's really all money is. So we've got the insurance company's money, we've got the bank's money, now we've got the tenant's money. Scott, that's three sources of OPM. If I can't get going in financial freedom with three sources of OPM without having to go to my mom and beg for money, I don't know what's stopping me. But Scott, you got one more up your sleeve. What's the fourth?
We do. We got a fourth one. The fourth one's a fun one as well. This is the government's money. And let me kind of unpack what that looks like. The government, the federal government's going to provide tax incentives for creating that housing, for creating that resource for somebody. We're going to get all sorts of tax benefits. We're going to get something called depreciation, an ability to kind of write off a home and use that to offset income. We're going to be able to deduct certain costs of operating that, the insurance costs, the property taxes, the upkeep, the maintenance. So the fourth source of money, The government is going to provide a subsidy to us. They're giving us money to subsidize and encourage this behavior. Can you believe it? Like, that is unbelievable when you really step back and think about it. We've got the government partnering with us, providing this, saying, hey, we want to encourage this behavior, and we're going to give you all these different tax breaks to incentivize you. That's as good as it gets.
Man, I'll tell you what, that is as good as it gets. If you have four different avenues providing capital and resources for you to pursue your dream of financial freedom, the only thing that's stopping you is you. That's it. OPM doesn't mean you have to go ask your mom for money. I'm sorry, Mom, I was coming. I was going to come get that loan from you. But now I don't have to go to my mom. I've got the government, I've got the insurance company, I've got the bank, and I've got my tenant, all giving me access to capital. Now, really quick before we close this down, Scott, why? A government who seems to constantly take money from us in the form of taxation, why are they incentivizing us to buy real estate?
Because at the end of the day, you talked about free exchange. They need our help. They need people that are capitalists, that are people that find solutions, that go out and make things happen. So they provide an incentive for people to go in and renovate a house. Think about the types of assets that a lot of us own. We're buying houses that are called turnkey. They're renovated. They're fixed up. They're a nicer house. I feel good about the houses that I offer for rent, that they've been renovated. They've got fresh flooring, fresh paint. They've got new air conditioning, new heating. If they didn't provide an incentive, what would we, as somebody going to be an owner, what would we do? Would we go out and necessarily renovate? If there's no incentive to do that, we just might take it as is. So now we're improving neighborhoods, right? We're fixing up a house. It's going to be more attractive. As other people fix up houses, that street's going to be more attractive. People are going to want to live there. They're going to want to pay taxes. They're going to want to go to the schools. So there's this whole big economy all knit together, but it all starts with offering an incentive to encourage behavior, to encourage people to renovate, rehabilitate, fix up properties to provide quality housing. And in America, we can do that better as entrepreneurs and as business owners and investors than the government can. I mean, we don't need to look very far of government projects, whether it's in Soviet Russia or some of the projects from the 40s, 50s, and 60s where we had government housing. And those are dilapidated buildings that nobody really wants to live in. So the private sector does it better. And people in government know that.
Well, Scott, I think you just gave us the fuel on the fire. I mean, at the end of the day, the only thing that's stopping you from achieving financial freedom in this economy is your level of resourcefulness, right? And we just gave you 4 levels to become more resourceful within that are just waiting for you. If not you, then who? I mean, that money's sitting there. It's ready to go. A life insurance policy, it's going to take a little bit of due diligence, but once you've done that due diligence and once you've funded your vault, you have access to unlimited capital up to the capital that you've put in plus the dividends that you've earned. The bank, man, their goal, their game, their entire business model is lending money. So it really comes down to the idea of how do I find the right assets that the bank will lend against. Once I've got the right asset, that also is a function of having the right tenant. What are the right neighborhoods that give me sustainable ability to attract quality families and tenants? And then last but not least, the government's always there. I mean, they're always there. And if it's not you, it's someone else. They're incentivizing this behavior all day long, Scott. They've incentivized me a lot to do a lot of real estate, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that because at the end of the day, that's how we win the game of money, right? The game of money today, you cannot save your way to financial freedom. It just isn't possible today. But that doesn't mean it's not possible to achieve financial freedom. You just have to look at the game for what it is and play by the current updated rules. And that game is OPM. That game is leverage. Without leverage, you can't get ahead. So, Scott, any final words to close us down today?
Yeah, I love that you wrapped up. Anybody can take advantage of this. We've got the tools and resources. And I think what you want to do is look at the opportunity that's there and realize there's some headwinds that we're all butting up against. But we've got all of these resources that are available. And the key part comes down to each one of us. Do I want to step into that? Do I want to move ahead now? Do I want to take advantage of this? Knowledge is great, but applying knowledge is really what moves us towards our goals, our dreams, and a financial future that includes freedom. So executing and moving ahead is really a key part of that. So I would encourage everybody watching this podcast, dig in, look to take action, and we'd love to help you. We'll keep coming out with content to give you tips, tools, and insights. Take action.
I love it. That was a good one today, my friend. So if you've not taken action, it's on you. It's on you. Step number one, join us at the Retire in 10 Years Summit. Step number two, do something about it. Become financially free in 10 years or less because you've only got one shot at this thing called life. Scott, my man, thank you for joining me on the podcast today. I'll see you in a couple days in Indy because we're doing a live event with our community, our Money Mastery community in Indianapolis, rolling out the brand new book, How to Retire in 10 Years. So, Scott, I'll see you soon, my friend.
See you later.
All right, my friends, thanks so much for hanging out today. I really appreciate you tuning in. But before you go, if we talked about something today that made you want to take action, you need to get yourself registered for the How to Retire in 10 Years Summit. It's the financial game changer that you've been looking for, teaching you exactly how to create passive income and financial freedom in 2025. Jump on it early because we've got a special bonus waiting for you. All the details are in the link below, or head on over to retireintenyears.com. So get registered and I'll see you at the summit.